The North Yorkshire Moors Railway is one of Britain's most famous heritage railways, but what if I told you this wasn't its original route? Because right in the heart of Grosmont is this, a tunnel from the original railway. And that's where today's story begins. To understand why this tunnel exists, we need to go back nearly 200 years, long before the North Yorkshire Moors Railway, long before preservation, and long before steam locomotives became common on British railways. In the early 19th century, Whitby was poorly connected to the rest of Yorkshire. The town's traditional industries, including shipbuilding and whaling, were in decline, and local businessmen believed better transport links were essential for the town's future. A canal was considered, but eventually a railway was chosen instead. And the result was the Whitby and Pickering Railway, opening in 1836 and engineered by George Stephenson. Unlike the steam-haul trains we associate with the North Yorkshire Moors Railway today, much of this route was originally worked by horses. Morning, Phil.
Morning.
You all right?
Yeah.
We're here in Grosmont today. This was part of the original Whitby and Pickering Railway, one of Yorkshire's earliest railways. And that little tunnel you can see just over our shoulder there, that was one of the oldest railway passenger tunnels in England. Today, me and Phil, we're going to walk the forgotten route, the pre-1865 line. So these tunnels then, Phil?
Yeah.
It's the old tunnel.
Yeah, it's a weird tunnel as well, actually, because it's almost fortified, isn't it, look?
Yeah.
You wouldn't know that that was a sort of sorts passenger tunnel at one time.
Tiny, isn't it? I mean, it's not built for locomotives, it's not built for trains, as we know trains, it's built for horses.
I mean, there's an optimistic image there, look, on the right of what it may have looked like, and I guess it's fairly accurate, isn't it?
So that was one of the early passenger coaches.
Yes. Looks like something might fly around the Wild West.
It's just literally like the ones that you see on the old roads, on the old turnpike roads, isn't it?
But except for it's on a rail.
On rails. So we're starting here by the tunnels, as we say, but just look to the right here. And look at the size of these buttresses.
Yeah, I think that's what you might call the big brother of the little one at the side. The size of them buttresses, I've never seen ever like it.
Well, this is the later tunnel. This is in 1845 they built this tunnel, so very, very quickly, you know, a decade after, they were having to upgrade the line to what you see here and the size difference. The railway we're following today didn't remain a horsework line for long. As traffic increased and steam locomotives took over, sections of the route were upgraded. The larger tunnel was built, bridges were strengthened, and parts of the original alignment were improved. By as early as the mid-1840s, the Whitby and Pickering Railway was already evolving from the simple horse railway that had opened only a decade earlier. But this is an interesting little section, this Grosmont bit. Let's have a walk back towards the current day Grosmont station. The Big Brother Bridge.
Certainly is, isn't it, if you look at this one.
On that side. So this, where we're standing here then, I mean, this is a modern, I wouldn't call it a modern, is it? But this is a more modern than the original one.
More recent, I think.
Is it a suspension bridge, a footbridge? Let's just call it a footbridge. Is this built on the original
Yes, on the original stanchions, yeah, you can see them. Look like they might have had a bit of a clean-up, actually. They look fairly decent, but unlike the embankment of the river, look at the state of that.
Oh yeah, that is, wow.
And if anyone wonders what that hole is, just there, look, I think, someone can correct me, I think that's one of the drifts that were going in when they were mining here before the railway came in.
So all underneath here is all old mines.
Yeah, so it's hardly a surprise with a river and addicts knocking around that this is slightly unstable, you know.
I'm saying, look at the bridge all coming away there, look. All the wing walls, that's completely disintegrated into the river below there. Phil, this area was called, what was it called, tunnel?
Tunnel, or I've read somewhere tunnel in, I presume.
Well, the tunnel in, we'll see it just round this corner here. It's still there. It's one of the original Whitby and Pickering buildings.
Being a non-drinker, I wouldn't know about these establishments.
You can't really miss it. It's now called the Station Tavern.
Ah, that's why I missed it then, isn't it? It's not called Tunnel Inn.
Yeah, and that used to be known as the Tunnel Inn.
I guess a few miners used to call in there then. You know, coming out of all the mines, because the iron mines behind the station were 400 people used to work there at its peak.
You've just been telling me something interesting about that signal box, Phil.
Yeah, because when I've been, looking at mine history around here, there used to be some, I think there were Eskdale mines down there. There were 2 or 3 adits in the hillside, and they used to be run down onto the onto this line effectively. So there was a couple of sidings and there was a signal box there that was stood up until 90s to, you know, old, from when it had the mine junction there, and it eventually were knocked down, and apparently I've read they built this using some materials. I'm not quite sure which ones, whether it's bricks. You wouldn't think it was wood because it would be rotten, but yeah, apparently that's got some sort of brickwork from the original signal box down that control the Eskdale mines, yeah. Good condition this is. Yeah, it's cold in here with breeze coming through.
It's freezing in here.
Bloody is.
Very icy day today, isn't it? Close to freezing without the wind chill.
That bit of a balls there.
It's 130 yards long, this tunnel. It was known as the Horse Tunnel. And these days, if you follow this tunnel as a footpath, it just comes out at the Grosmont, was it Locomotive Works shed?
Just a depot, isn't it?
No, we've not come to look at Catsville.
Nope.
So this is the other end of the tunnel. This is what it looks like at this end. But this is the back end of the workshops. This is as far as you're permitted to go on a day like today. But never mind, it's not really part of our story today, is it, Phil?
No, look at that. That's the portal, isn't it, of the new alignment, look.
All right, yeah.
Look, we've come at the side of it.
So that tunnel's slightly longer.
Yeah, so this line would have just gone through these workshops originally.
So, cut and cover tunnel then for this.
Yeah.
This little bit here. We've climbed high above the tunnel. Nice view of Grosmont down the bottom there, Phil.
Very pleasant actually up here.
So the tunnels are just over here then. Coming out, you can just see the engine shed over here. But even those improvements wouldn't be enough. As locomotives became larger and traffic increased, engineers were faced with a bigger problem. The original route had been designed for a very different railway, and ahead lay some of the steepest and most difficult sections on the entire line. So we don't have to wait long after coming out of the tunnels at Grosmont. Look, we're only just at the end of the yard, Grosmont yard, and we start to be able to discuss our deviation, Phil. Deviations, we're not actually walking on the deviation. The deviation is what's the current North Yorkshire Moors Railway, isn't it, that takes the much more gentler climb up to the top. It's the dirt track here that's just on our left-hand side here. Is this the original alignment then?
Yeah. This is what it were all about when it was a single-track horse-drawn affair. Going along here, we pick it up because you can walk it. It's a trail, most of it now, so we're about to pick it up if we walk a bit further down.
As we continued along the original railway, evidence of the area's industrial past began to appear everywhere. This wasn't simply a passenger railway. Small mineral branches left the line in several places, connecting mines and ironworks hidden amongst the surrounding hills. Today, many survive only as faint embankments and shelves in the landscape, but together they tell an important story. This railway was becoming part of a much larger industrial network. Although the valleys feel peaceful today, the 19th century scene would have been very different, with smoke rising from mines, ironworks and chimneys scattered along this route.
There's a mine down there called, I think it's Esk Mine or Esk Valley Mine. It's kind of been done up a bit actually, so you can have a look at it. But can you see this embankment in front on you there, look?
Yeah, the little shelf.
I think this was a really early way of getting in to this mine. I think there's a shaft up here as well. It might have only been put in for that, I'm not too sure. But anyway, we'll see the full standard gauge deviation branch coming off a bit shortly, but this is the first incarnation, and you can see it's engineered, look, you can see the brick there, look, so yeah, it sort of filters out there though, but yeah, it's blinking you miss it really with that one. But you'll see that on all maps, alignment of it.
What are they mining round here? Ironstone?
It's ironstone, yeah. And then there was ironworks, like Grosmont, for example. They was going to set an ironworks up here, but they only got as far as the actual iron mine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's a special product up on the hills called Whinstone, which is another player. Yeah, which is another player in the game. Not Whetstone, Whinstone.
Whinstone.
Yeah. Oh, Winston Churchill. So that has got a lot of connections to railway, which we'll see in a bit as we go down. But there's evidence there. If you just proceed a bit further and look to your right, you can see an old, in the field, look, just to the right over there.
What, that little house?
So that's an old explosives hut from the Esk Valley mine, which lay a bit further down because they had to keep them away from the mine workings for risks. And as we go down there, you'll be able to connect both of these alignments. So we've showed you one already, you'll see the other, and they all converge into the mine, which is up there, which we'll see shortly. But this is quite interesting. Look at this starting to raise on the left already, look. If you compare it to the old alignment, look.
You're right, you know, yeah, really not.
We ain't noticed. You can see it's so easy here, the difference.
Let's just get up on this banking here. Look, I mean, look, just since that gate there.
Yeah, it's just going up straight away.
It's noticeable, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really pulling some up there. Got an old steam loco here as well. What was this? Does anyone know what loco this is?
I don't think it's going to do a great deal future, is it?
Another banking. Wow, there were so many lines going off this, Phil. Do we know how many years of these lines were?
Well, I mean, this would be late 1800s, wouldn't it? Most of the iron mines around here would have gone kaput at the turn of the century, really.
Just show you down there. Look, can you see that little shelf, that embankment, just curving off down there. So there goes the North Yorkshire Moors Railway, just peeling off to the left-hand side. That's curving away now quite sharply. But our original horse-drawn route, our original 1830s route, look, is continuing straight. Those two lines that we've seen leaving off to our right-hand side that we've been showing you, those shelves, this is where they were both heading. They were both heading towards this mine. And we've got, what's this, Phil? It's a tippling point, you think?
Yeah, there'd have been a tipping point there for stuff brought up the shaft in the mine there, and there'd have been tipping them onto trucks wagons that have gone out, yeah. It is a tipping point there, look. You see it, that siding we just spoke about, it's there, look.
So Esk Valley mine developed in the 1860s.
You can see the pumping rods, look.
Yeah.
So this would have been engine, and there would have been the boilers, and here were the shafts. So not a big site really.
And you can see already, 1 in 45, that railway line climbs to where we'll see it again at the end of this journey. You can already see, look, it's already like halfway up the upstairs window on the end house.
Even though this was single line, there were some sections where there would have been more than one line. This is one particular section, pretty much hard to make out because of the tree growth, but there was 2 lines here. The right hand side line was actually in effect a siding. There was some Whinstone, I say quarry and mining going on the right up here. So there was some transshipping points. So they didn't want to obstruct the main line, although to say it's a main line, pretty much
the through line.
An exaggeration, isn't it? When we get a bit further down, there used to be a tiny turntable where trucks coming down from another mine on the hill over there used to come down at incline, cross over the main line, as we call it, onto turntable, and they turn the truck. So they use this secondary siding for, you know, a couple of reasons really. So we'll see if we can dig up any evidence of it as we go down.
Although the deviation of the North Yorkshire Moors Railway, as we know it today, has left us, this wasn't, when this was, we'll not use the word abandoned, Phil, because this was still used, wasn't it? The section here, it wasn't a through line, it didn't go all the way.
It was a stub, wasn't there, at the bottom of the incline, because there was still a couple of iron mines down here that I would imagine stuff was still being bought out of, but obviously the only way out, I mean, they were pretty much on the last legs, I think, but there were still occasional shipments coming down here, so yeah, they, you know.
It's 1951. I've got here,
right.
that there was some form of traffic on this, we'll call it a stub, we'll call it a branch, but that wasn't the end of the story. The line down to Beck Hole here, but it was called the Beck Hole branch later in its life.
Okay, right, yeah, Beck Hole mine is down here, so that makes sense.
Yeah, and from 1908 to 1914, just reading from my notes here, the branch was used for summer passenger traffic from Whitby. You've got a structure just on the right-hand side here. What's this? Is this a bridge abutment or a loading?
Yeah, it's a loading platform because the Whinstone were being extracted from both sides of the dale here, and this was also an area to us right here, and this would have been a shipping point down onto this secondary siding, as we called it earlier, which obviously just ran directly underneath it. There was a tramway bringing stuff down from the upper workings. Can you see? You can just kind of make it out there.
Is that an incline then?
I believe it's just a small tramway from bringing ore or mineral, whatever you call it, from the upper workings, and obviously this sort of working area that we're on now, which is fairly flat, isn't it, look?
Yeah,
they're probably doing what they've got to do with it, and then they'd have probably just tippled it on tubs to the loading point down there, which we've just been looking at on track bed down there, look.
So we had a line on the left-hand side as well, coming in from another mine.
Yeah, well, we can walk over there. Let's go and have a look.
So I'll show you where we are on this map. We're just heading up another little tramway. That's the right phrase for it. That's the right term, yeah.
Spot on. And if the trees weren't there, you'd see a viaduct there, just behind the trees.
And this one is, the shelf on this one, Phil, the embankment look is a lot more defined
Yes,
than
it
those
is.
other ones that we've just been looking at.
The trucks were unhooked just up here and they ran down. Ponies pulled them this bit.
Well, a nice little viaduct, Phil.
Yeah,
How many
worthy just to
arches?
come and have a look at it, wasn't it?
Is that 4-arch viaduct? Obviously that's the North Yorkshire Moors Railway going over the top here, and we're still on that tramway. So what happens here then, Phil?
Well,
So it's split into two.
So this tramway we're on was running before this viaduct was built. So the lay of the land in front of us has all changed because when they built this viaduct, they've obviously piled a lot of earth here, there and everywhere.
Yeah, yeah.
But if you just walk up this little ridge, you can point out what happened here.
You can see through the viaduct back where we've just walked down that embankment, look, and you can see that this retaining wall here, look, so it's running, it's running along.
So this is just, you know, you've got to imagine that if they're doing earthworks with this viaduct, there'd have been a lot of spoil kicking around. They've just chucked it here, there and everywhere, look, can't they? But you can quite clearly see an original tramway used to come in along there, look.
Yeah, defined cutting there.
Yeah, it hits an embankment, and I think it went through that embankment, and it came out the other side, it went into a level in the hillside. But of course, whether it had a little shallow bridge here, I don't know, because it's collapsed, the beck has. Whether that's just strengthening stone underneath the track bed, or is that part of an old arch, I'm not quite sure.
And then the second line then, the second little branch off this little tramway was from an incline up there.
Yeah, I don't know if your camera can pick it out.
It's very, you can just about making it out. We're a bit of a distance away though, aren't we?
So that's a rope incline.
Right.
This is all to do with getting the Whinstone out of the hillside, this was.
This bridge is quite a modern bridge. I believe it's only about 25 years or so old, but look, it's built on the old supports for the old bridge. Can you see the masonry down there? And then when this little tramway, this little pony-drawn tramway, here we go, it's crossing the... So it's actually crossed on the level then, Phil,
Yep.
the railway, and then you think that there is a small turntable here then, where they turn...
Yeah, I don't think there is one. I think there was one.
You think that's how they got it onto the 90-degree angle with the siding?
It had to get onto this service siding.
Yeah.
And it's a bit strange to cross the main line, but there wouldn't have been much traffic on the so-called main line.
There's a lot of information boards on this trail, not just about the railway as well, but also about all the mining that went on. Murkside mines.
But note how wide it is.
Yeah, look at that. This is an old bridge, obviously, it's crossing the river. Which river it is, Phil? The Murk Esk?
Yeah, the Esk and the Murk Esk, I quite often get muddled up.
The pier in the middle there. Quite a sizable bridge.
Yeah, it's almost like a mainline twin track, isn't it? Bearing in mind it used to be a horse and a cart job, and then it was eventually engineered for steam engines to use it. It would have to have been upgraded.
But it was only a through line for what, 30 years?
Yeah. But look at the size of the track bed, the width-wise here, look, it's fairly wide, isn't it?
Yeah, you can see the pier, look. The size of the capping stones on there. That is some serious engineering. So obviously what we're following today is the old line. This old line, we've also got a deviation on this line as well.
Now, when it was all drawn, to avoid crossing this river, they ran it along a shelf on the left-hand side, so keep costs down.
Yeah.
But eventually, when they had to upgrade for engines to use it, that shelf was considered too weak and they had to bridge it across the river, which is what we're on now. And to the left, you can just almost make out the horse-drawn alignment shooting to the left slightly.
Is that this?
It gets more obvious later on, as you'll see.
Well, this is the start of it.
Yep. Yep.
Just to summarise then, the original horse-drawn alignment from when the line originally opened clung to a shelf on the left.
Yeah, it was to the right of the steps. It's been washed away, look. It obviously didn't go up them steps. It's sort of running just above the river.
And then later on, we had the railway, a later edition of the railway, crossed over the river. And we can see, see it a lot better from an near look. So that bridge is washed away now, but there is the abutment at that side. We can see it on there. It's quite askew, this, Phil.
Yeah, you can see the wooden supports look there from the original bridge look still driven into the riverbed. You see them?
Yeah. So what was it, a trestle bridge?
I'm not sure if it was trestle bridge that had to be upgraded to stone and then it all went, or are they the original trestle bridges? Once it went, they never replaced it because they didn't have to because it wasn't running. And they've diverted us on the path as it is now. But if you look to your left there, you'll see some they've took them out of the ground, look, and put them on display.
We've got an information board, so that'll fill all the gaps in. I found this section of the line fascinating. Not only have we got one of the early deviations, but we've got different generations of bridge too. The original bridge was made of stone, quite a substantial one, and astonishingly the stone bridge was washed away, and those stone abutments we saw were all that was left behind. The stone bridge was replaced by the timber bridge. We saw the remains of those timber supports, and this too was damaged in the 1930s. Nature 2, railways nil. Can you see those old bridge remains at the other side? Look at that there. So they're coming off the old... So that old alignment, the original alignment, still running on the other side of the river.
That's right. Yeah.
So that's another line off to a mine, is it?
Well, bearing in mind where we stood now, this wouldn't have been here. So if it was an old line going to a mine, it would have to cross this bridge. And if you look, you can see a continuation of it behind you, look.
Okay, that footpath.
Yeah, well, it's a footpath, but that could have been a tramway going round into another mine.
So is this the bridge that we crossed? What was the name of that bridge again? It had a name. North
I
Bridge.
don't think I looked either.
North Bridge, was it? This is the same as that one. He's going on. It's basically recrossing the river, isn't it?
Yeah.
And this one's still fully intact. So is this what that bridge would have looked like, the original?
Yeah, they're almost identical in design. Yes, they were. If you come down here, you can have a really nice view of this bridge on the left, actually.
Look at this little map here. Right, this is summarised perfectly what we've just been following,
Very
haven't
much,
we?
yeah. I think that was actually a bit more like that, if I'm going to pick fault with it.
A bit more of a gradual turnout.
Yeah. So look at that, 1, 2, 3 then.
Yeah, 1847. I was going to ask what year did they put this deviation in. So we get to have a look at from down below at this bridge. So what was it called? Twin Arch Bridge, this one?
Well, did that say it was a description of the Twin Arch Bridge, or was it called Twin Arch Bridge? I don't know.
So we've not really paid it much attention because it's been out of sight since we've been over the other side of the river here. But this is the other side here. This is that original horse-drawn 1835 alignment. So here's where the two lines meet here, look. Can't really see it out very well, can you? There's no clearing in the trees or anything, Phil, is there?
No, it's not as easy to see from here. So there's another branch comes off here and goes into Beck Hole Ironworks. So let's see if we can pick it up. I think it's just after this bridge, I think.
Phil, something that's, I mean, we commented on it on the previous bridges. Why are these bridges so wide?
Well, it could be here. This could be because it's an approach to Beck Hole Ironworks on the right. So maybe there was a siding on this bridge. That's why it's so wide. I just don't know for sure.
Yeah, but they've all been this wide, haven't they? They've all been really, really cumbersome wide bridges.
Well, you notice it's just in this section. So maybe this section did have a couple of tracks in its time.
Even for double track.
Yeah, it's hefty.
Look at the width between the two supports.
It's very much like a mainline two-track track bed, doesn't it? When you look at the size of some of these stanchions that are left.
So this is the track bed leaving on the right-hand side for Beck Hole
Ironworks, yep, that's right. There was a Beck Hole Ironworks and there was also the associated mines a bit further up. As you can see, it's got quite a lot of scarring across the land, look, where various, I don't know, tips or whatever would have been dumped here in the past. In fact, you can barely see the track bed, really. It's quite a mosh, isn't it?
That's not a very well, compared to the two close to Grosmont, that's not a very well defined embankment, is it, that?
No.
So what would we have been looking over here then in terms of industry? How big was this work site here? Because it's hard to comprehend that standing here today.
It's like Grosmont, you know, Grosmont Station Car Park was quite a large area of activity. It always amazed me when I saw how big it actually was, because I'd probably been there so many times over 20, 30 years before I cottoned on as I got old and got interested that actually it was ironworks, and the size of the ironworks is quite staggering when we think of what it is now. You just couldn't imagine it. And I guess this is another example, because it's just a field, isn't it? I've not seen any picture of this. I don't know whether there's some on some information boards up here, but again, if it's an ironworks, it's not going to be small, is it?
No.
This whole field will have been taken up by all the various things that you're getting at ironworks, you know, smelters, ovens, kilns, lines and spoil, the lot.
So this is Beck Hole, and would this be the site of Beck Hole station then?
Yep, you're looking at it right now, actually on the right hand side the platforms would have been.
It's closed in 1865, so basically when the new deviation opened. So in terms of the lifespan of this railway that we talked, it kept on going after the new line opened. This was as far as it came then, so everything past here that we'll see closed in 1865.
Correct.
Ah, autocar service, that's the one that I mentioned earlier, isn't it?
So it was running there, look.
1908, 1914, brought people in. So just this side of Beck Hole station then, we can have a look at the bridge here. There's a lot of masonry down here, look. Okay, we've got two bridge stanchions here then.
Yeah, so obviously you're looking at the main drag, shall we say, and this secondary one here, look, that's an old tramway that wasn't connected to this line. It was I wouldn't say private, but it was an exclusive tramway running out of the Coombs mines in the woods here that ran along here into the ironworks that we've just been talking about. So you've got your rail connection that we've already covered, and you've also got the way of transporting the iron that were coming out of the mines, ran along its own tramway, along here, crossed here, and then it went, yeah.
This story is far from over. We'll have a separate video looking at the old railway routes through the village of Gothland. We're yet to encounter the main reason why this line was deviated all those years ago. An incline, and an incline with a fantastic quirk. And I love anything like that. Now, thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the scenery today, and thanks to all my channel members and supporters, and especially a big thanks to Phil. And we'll see you on the next video. Ta-ra!